So it is that time of the month, my friend, and it is the time where we get to kind of look at things in the USL. And I want to start, I guess, recency bias gives me the opportunity to sit here and ask about what in the wide world of sports is going on in Sacramento. It's Memo, it's Mark Anthony K, it's front office. Are they going to stop signing people every single day that we're going to have a discussion about Sacramento?
Well, you're talking about we think that the roster is pretty good.
Yeah.
But when you take a look at what it was prior to all these signings, they had no coverage in left center back. They had no coverage at right wing back. They had really three available central midfielders to they had a very, very, very good team in the starting 11. But if one of those 11 got hurt, they were in a bad spot. That said, kind of some moves that they made today going with the new just front office members
Yeah. Bring in
after
Holt,
losing their
man.
previous
Yeah.
to NYCFC,
Hmm.
you're thinking, okay, what's the next step? They bring in someone who was at San Antonio, I believe, and was a key contributor to getting them fully off the ground and highly successful. That feels like a match made in heaven.
And they bring in Tim Holt, who was a part of San Antonio FC, USL president upon the Republic's entry into USL Championship. You're talking about a quarter century worth of stuff here with his history. And I mean, you're kind of going back to the future here. He's part of Orlando's run when they started in Major League Soccer. In
Yeah.
Orlando, you build OCB, you build the Pride, and then you go to San Antonio and all that kind of stuff. So Tim Holt kind of knows the lay of the land in USL, and it's just it's like name, name, name. Whether we're talking upstairs or on the field with Sacramento, they don't seem to be messing around a whole lot and filling those absences both upstairs and down.
Yeah. Well, when we did last week, we did our Western Conference preview show.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bit surprised at where we kind of landed with Sacramento because when I was thinking in my head, where is Sacramento before I started really diving in deep on them, I was thinking they were a top 6 team in the West, but I wasn't really sure how they stacked up. And then you start looking at their lineup, you get an actual full year of Neil Collins there. And if you don't remember how Neil Collins came to the USL, he basically forced his way out of Scotland. The Scottish club he was at was basically like, we don't want him to leave. Please don't leave. But he desperately wants to go. So don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you, sort of thing. And he doesn't really get a full off season. This year he does. That are they Briggs? Are they Neil? Time is over in Sacramento. And when I started looking at this, I was like, man, they're easily on paper the third best team in the West. And depending on how can Tulsa recover after losing Peñaranda and Calera, they might be top 2. I still think Tulsa is a fantastic team. Don't get me wrong. I still think that they are deserving of the number 1 spot, but there's a lot more room for conversation of top 2 than there was coming into these recent signings.
Yeah, and I mentioned Mark Anthony K because of our discussion with Lexington. Brooks Thompson gets loaned out. Mark Anthony K, after his cup of coffee and trying to get warm in Lexington, ends up going to Sacramento. Where do you, and I'm hopscotching, I admit it, just because it's like squirrel this time around with USL Championship.
Of course.
When you look at what you're seeing at Lex, it's like you saw all those pieces that they brought in. Now things are kind of settling with a couple of weeks to go before the regular season. What do you see with Lex after this initial rush, and then pieces being sorted out to various other clubs?
Sure. I think one thing with Lexington, I think a lot of people are going to say, and we got this comment several times on our video about them, which was you're getting tricked by Lexington once again, in which I will tell them, look at how they ended the last season. This isn't like they were really bad and then they bought a bunch of players. They kept a core of great players. And then their expansion on great players is the best players in the league,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they are truly expanding on the margins is what Lexington was doing, not what they did in League One, where they just bought everybody who was good, and the championship they just bought anybody with a pulse, right? They really were able to refine this year and go after targeted pieces. I think the Peñaranda deal is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So they lose Brooks Thompson on a short-term loan to MLS with an option to buy, which everybody assumes is going to get picked up. Ketterer goes down with injury, so they only had Oliver Zemla. That's all they had. So annoying. And so they were like, okay, who's going to be GK2? Who's going to be et cetera, et cetera. And I'm blanking on his name, and I feel really bad. But their Lexington 2 goalkeeper from this last year just signed with Chattanooga FC to be their backup goalkeeper, or possibly fight out for that number one, likely going to be the number 2.
Right.
So their leading minutes leader in Lexington 2, the natural next step to being that 2, just signed to go pro. So someone who's been on the block a little bit has been Peñaranda, because they bring in an Alex Tambakis. But if you're Peñaranda, you're leaving a place that you are fighting for number 1 to be a comfortable number 2. So was the pay rise that much to worth be leaving? Or is that gap smaller than I think between Zemla and Peñaranda? I don't think it is, but I'm truly fascinated with it.
Griffin Huff is the phrase that pays. As I'm sitting here and you're talking about locations, I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm going to websites, So Griffin Huff is the one that goes from Lexington SC, and he ends up now with Chattanooga behind 94-year-old Eldin Jakupovic, who is still one of the best in the league.
So
and
good.
Insane with what you get to see from Eldin Jakupovic. You mentioned another couple of joints, and you look at Tulsa. You mentioned Peñaranda. You mentioned Kaylor going to Sporting Kansas City, and there was even talk last week heading into match day 1 in Major League Soccer that Sporting Kansas City still didn't have a full 30-person roster, and you end up jettisoning Daniel Shallowy. You bring in Kaylor. It's intrigue. Where are you looking at Tulsa in the grand scheme of things? They bring in Tristan Henry to be a part of things between the sticks. You have Peñaranda out. You have Kaylor up, Tristan Henry in, and where are you seeing Tulsa here?
Well, Kaylor is a big miss.
Yeah.
Good friend John Morrissey said it best. He's the most complete striker I've seen in lower league soccer.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen prolific strikers in the lower leagues that put up more goals than Kaylor. We have seen strikers who are just good at their one thing, and they put up a lot of goals. There's no one more complete than Kaylor was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be a big miss. Going from Kaylor to Remy Cabral is a substantial downgrade. And that's nothing against Cabral.
No.
He's a good player. He's just not era. However, Bruno Lapa. They got Khalil Medkar. They got Weber. They got Lukic. They got Summersall. They got Diallo. They got Coley. They got Sparks. They got Batista. They got Sissoko, Pierre, Ian, Stauffer, St. Clair, Dom, Tambakis. Oh, by the way, I named some bench pieces for them that are better than most team starters. No, what they got at the 9 is not what you want exactly, because what you want is Kaylor. But there are 10 other players on this team, including some bench pieces, that are better than your team's favorite player.
Brooklyn, they're bringing in bits and pieces, and one of the names that kind of stuck out to me was Jaden Cervania going to Brooklyn for the 26th season. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, they still don't have a right back, which is an issue. Coming in, well, they do, but not officially announced. But as of taping this, he has not been named.
Right.
But Cervania fills out that left side where after graduating from the Legion Academy, he goes on to North Carolina FC, and he really breaks out there, and he kind of floats between starting and not starting in a really star-studded North Carolina FC team. May they rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm really interested how Cervania and Alves and Hundal and Maglione can really connect together, because I'm not sold on the roster as names,
Right.
but you see the vision on how it can, to the
Okay.
point that LeBlanc may not need stars to make this team click. I'm not going to call it Pittsburgh-esque. They're not going to be that defensive,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the Bob Lilly making names that seem like a ragtag bunch of players
Yeah.
work. I see the vision here.
Okay. You get system dudes, huh?
A lot of system guys that I really see what they're going for,
Mhm.
and I'm excited to see how it works. Am I convinced that they'll be competing for the playoffs this year? Yeah, they could compete for the playoffs. Are they going to be finding themselves above the seventh place? The way they're going to, if they make the playoffs, they'll have to go to Lou City or Charleston, which never goes well for really anybody, unless you're Detroit City.
True.
They always seem to do fine. But everybody else, that's not a great task for them.
Yeah.
But in year one, you happily take that.
Yeah. Taylor Davila signs an extension with Lou City. Everybody, unless you really want to make a move away from Lou City at that particular point of your career, you're happy. You're chilling in Lou City. You're good. Everything's cool, and Lou City just continues to reload. John Berner ends up in Charleston, I believe, as a part of their keeper core.
Mhm.
And kind of rounding out everything here in the Southeast, Romario Williams to Birmingham. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Romario Williams, he's looked good in friendlies. He has been very much in my brain the Stefano Pino like player,
Yeah.
older guy, maybe a little past their prime, but class is still there, right? He's not going to be able to sprint up and down the pitch
No.
like he once could.
No.
He doesn't have the legs he once did. But if you're looking for a big body who can hold up play through another player like a Tyler Pasher, like a Sebastian Tregarth, or even a Ronaldo Damas, if you're looking for a guy like that who can play them through, he's great. From what I've seen from him, like a Pino, which is why I'm making this comparison, it's 80 minutes into a match and you need to go and let him sit up top and win a header, poach something at the back post.
Mm-hmm.
There's players that you really trust to finish like he can. He is a proven goal scorer and exactly what you need at depth if you're Birmingham.
All right, odds and ends before we get into the other topic of the morning, and that's in League One. But who worries you right now when it comes to continued lack of action, pieces that may not fit, island of misfit toys kind of stuff, or people sitting on their hands with only a handful of weeks before the season starts?
I'm a little torn here because I would have said Birmingham, but I've seen them in action now, and I really like this team. Full bias, I will be honest, but I'm really liking the roster construction. So I'm actually going to look towards Indy 11, whom, if you look on names of paper, you like what you see. You see Akiza, you see Sharp, Blake, you see Quinn, Lindley, White, Herbert, Hogan, Eric Dick. But that back line, especially of Herbert, Hogan, Paco Craig in the back, White, Mitriano, it doesn't really quite add up to what they lost. And this was already a squad that was shaky back there anyway. And I don't really know what the vision was because they brought in young players who excite me, but they're just not going to start. So I'm more or less confused about their roster construction more than anything else. Out in the West, it's either El Paso or Monterey Bay, where El Paso, same conversation. It it might be one of the worst across League One or the championship. The back line is
Wow.
woeful,
Wow.
but there's a world where they can make it work if they go to a three back and drop someone from the attack. But then, do you really want to drop anybody from an attack? I don't think so. Monterey, there are pieces that I like here, but it's thin. I'm not. If somebody goes down, it's almost a lost season for them if they get an injury, especially in that back line. So, a bit worried about those three.
Okay, obviously the big story in League One, and I know it's something that you guys discuss a great deal in your League One discussions. I know that we've been discussing what we were anticipating with a season with South Georgia Tormenta, but now that's not going to happen in 26. They're going on hiatus, and they're keeping first team staff and technical and the coaching staff and the first team technical staff. They're going to be still on salary in 26, which lends itself to the notion that they're going to continue to work toward a 27 return. And the academy and all of the community stuff is still going to be happening. So that's where Tormenta is right now. Obviously, 2 weeks before the season starts, you're kind of having to, if you are the other clubs that had them on the schedule, you're having to do things on the hop. I know that Richmond has basically said that they're not going to fill that date. Teams have the option of going friendly or doing it as a free. What is the latest that you have heard from your sourcing when it comes to futures and any other Tormenta tidbits that you may have this time around?
A lot of the stuff that we got, me and Alex Ashton, League One updater, he was one of the first ones to break it with John Morrissey, him on Beyond the 90, John Morris.
Right.
Me and Alex talked about it on Saturday night, and we kind of broke down all the pieces to this. I think that for me, the biggest thing that from what I've heard with sources and people that I've talked about with this is the 3 months of free agency pool, which is the minimum that the league could offer. The league did do the bare minimum on this, and I hate to say it this way, but they offered 3 months severance and said, good luck, good luck finding your new team 2 weeks before the season. Oh, by the way, basically every League One team has finished making their roster. So there's probably not a home for you. I talked to about 4 coaches since Friday night when we started getting this is happening, because from what we were told, the league deadline that they gave Tormenta and the time period differs. It was about 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. on Friday was the, hey, get the money together for this insurance premium or you're not playing next year. And it was about that time I got my first phone call, 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started getting phone calls about this. Me, Alex, John started kind of started talking a little bit about like what we're hearing, what we're not hearing, etc. And with the coaches that I talked to, they said if Tormenta does not help out on these wages or the league does not help out on these wages, we literally cannot afford them.
Mm-hmm.
We can't afford these players. So the 3 month severance may end up helping these players out in terms of finding them a new home, because their wages were pretty lofty for League One standards. I mean, they were making decent money to go down there to Statesboro. That was, I mean, that's part of the reason why they were able to get them down there. If they use this time to raise the money, get the money in some way, expand the stadium, build the stadium, finish it out, get rid of the mound, even though I think they should have a memorial back there somewhere.
Yeah.
Keep like some kind of permanent dirt mound, keep it.
Right.
I think it would build a lot of faith back with the fans, which if you saw their fan support diminish, a lot of it came down to broken promise that they didn't quite hold true on. And it wasn't from the lack of good intention from the Van Tassels. Every conversation I had with them was so positive, and they truly went into it for the right reasons. They wanted to make Statesboro soccer matter and be good. Um, it just things didn't work out. And now the playing staff, now the players are the fans who lost faith and stopped going. Ownership wasn't making good on their word. They now feel justified. So they're going to have to spend this year, fixing some broken promises and try to mend relationships, not just with the hometown support, but future players. Because if they go on hiatus once, who says they won't do it again?
Well, and if you go more than once, then what was it? Odds are that if you do it once, people understand, and then you could do it more than that, then obviously there were more issues than you had originally anticipated. So obviously we'll keep an eye on all that stuff, and I cannot thank you enough once again for laying everything out, because the next time we talk, games will be played. Yeah.
I mean, we're closing in on that date. March is going to be our first one. Lou City versus Lexington. Bluegrassico starts off our season.
Very nice.
And then we are hot and heavy. Super League is super fun right now. I'm telling you, people, if you have not been watching the Super League, jump in on the bandwagon because it is a blast. But no, I'm excited to get the season starting because will they, won't they, and just kind of projecting lineups, it's getting a little old. I'm getting antsy.
Yeah, and we need to talk Super League when you come on and have your discussions. So we need to add that to the stacks as well. As always, my friend, it's great to see you. Great to catch up on everything. And the show, sir, you need to plug that.
Tonight, we are going to be talking Eastern Conference over here. So yes, we're going to be doing the full Eastern Conference preview show. Every single team in the East is going to be talked about. Last week, we did the Western Conference preview show. So if you want to your favorite or least favorite Western Conference team, not only do we have it in a podcast form, but we have them in individual videos, and we made a soup. And next week we will be doing League One. So if you want to find out about all the teams that Tormenta would have played, you can check that out next week.
As always, my friend, great to see you. We will catch up with you next time. And remember, and remind me next time, we got to talk Super League in addition to everything else. So that way our conversation goes that much further down the road. Good to see you, my friend.